This is a show about facing fear, unlocking courage, and taking action.
Courage isn't necessarily a daunting thing.
It's going to give you more purpose. It's going to give you more drive.
It feels like making a courageous decision is going to get you closer to who you aspire to be.
It's knowledge plus faith plus action equals courage.
Her name is Gizmo.
Gizmo.
This dog has more courage than I do.
She's seen 200 tornadoes. She's been in a Category 5 hurricane, crazy hail, big floods. She's seen it all. More tornadoes than any other dog.
Have you submitted this for Guinness Book of World Records? You've been doing this a long time, Reed Timmer. When I think about you, like most of us run from extreme weather, but you are, number one, I want to honor the work. Like, you're a meteorologist. Like, you've put in the work. You are also a storm chaser. I don't know what else to call it. Is that what you call it?
Yeah. I call myself a storm chaser, sometimes an extreme meteorologist too. But that was when I was working at AccuWeather. My title was extreme meteorologist there. But yeah, I actually went to school for 17 years, continuously enrolled in college for meteorology. So I was storm chasing a lot during that time, but at the University of Oklahoma down here. And yeah, still storm chasing many years later, even more passionate about it now, I think, at age 44. So,
well, for those of you who are just listening and not watching, the sign over Reed's head is "Chase like a champion." Right? I mean, chase like a champion today. What's the URL? Let's give an early plug. Tornadovideos.net.
Yeah, that was my first website that I started up, and actually, it's not active anymore, but. Yeah, tornadovideos.net was the first website I started in the early 2000s and started storm chasing in the 90s, late 90s, and was selling DVDs and everything. And one of the first tornadoes I saw was actually an F5 tornado on May 3rd, 1999, one of the strongest in recorded history, and had to ride it out underneath an overpass. So there were like 5 of us freshmen packed in a soft top geo tracker and saw the F5 coming at us, and we made a couple road decision errors, and next thing I know, we're running for an overpass and a family's freaking out underneath it. But I got started pretty early with the extreme storm chasing, and I was probably 18, 19 when that happened. I just love getting close to tornadoes. I can see them in 3 dimensions. I can see the whole process happening right above me, and that's always my goal, is to be right underneath the tornado when it's touching down, so that I can witness the occlusion process or the tornado genesis process in 3 dimensions.
I mean, I kind of feel like I also have a front row seat for tornadoes. Sometimes those are called corporations that are messy and like chaotic. And Reed, first of all, it's so good to see you because it's been years, and I admire your work, and I learned so much about you. And this is not to plug Return on Courage, but you're definitely on the podium of one of favorite interviews that I had for my book. And one of my favorite lines that you said, I still use it from time to time, is, "I'm no daredevil. I'm afraid of heights." And when you think about, storm chasers, that is probably the last thing you think one might say about who they are. Like, are you still afraid of heights?
Yeah, I'm uncomfortable when I'm high up, definitely. And but I've still done that Angel's Landing hike a few times in Zion. I probably won't do it anymore. But yeah, I'm not comfortable being high up just because gravity always wins, I think, most of the time. So I'm definitely comfortable being on the ground, but I'm not really scared to death of it. I'm not really comfortable being, like right up next to the Grand Canyon or something like that. But I feel like tornadoes are a little bit easier to know which way they're moving and kind of stay out of their way. Yeah, I am a little bit afraid of heights.
One of the things that I feel like I learned the most from you was that you kind of have to get in the mix and study, right? Like, the closer to the fire you are, almost the better, but be careful of where the fire is. Another, Reed Timmerism, I'm making this part up, right? Is not this, the more you chase, the more you learn. And it's not about conquering the storm, it's about understanding it. And I think when we talk about courage, we feel similarly. Like, something might be terrifying, but like, as long as you look at it as a learning opportunity, like my favorite T-shirt is not, is a shirt that says "Mistake it till you make it." I don't like fake it till you make it. I'm like mistake it till you make it, right? Keep getting close, keep chasing. It might get messy. You've had a pretty busy month, right? I mean, this is pretty bonkers here in the US, no?
Oh yeah, and it's been a pretty crazy couple of years too for tornadoes. We've kind of seen Tornado Alley come back in a big way last year, and then especially this year with a bunch of tornado outbreaks. And I got the armored vehicle back, the Dominator. That's the tank-like vehicle that we use to drive right inside of tornadoes. And we've probably had like 10 direct tornado intercepts in the last 2 years, which is where we get right in the middle of the tornado core or the radius of maximum wind. And I think one of our biggest intercepts was last year up in Nebraska. We had the Dominator 3 right inside of a tornado in the Nebraska Sandhills. We planted it right in the middle. So we drive in the path of the tornado, and through hydraulics, we drop the vehicle flush to the ground. A couple of spikes try to go into the ground, but it's not a guaranteed survival. There's definitely a little bit of risk, quite a bit of risk potentially. So you get in the path of the tornado, you're watching it come at you, and then you just hunker down, and it goes by pretty fast. The pressure fall is so dramatic that it gives you concussion-like symptoms. Your ears get clogged, and you'll be disoriented for a couple of hours afterward. That's one thing I've learned from intercepting tornadoes directly is that the pressure fall almost will give you concussion-like symptoms because it's such a dramatic pressure fall and then rise right afterward. So we've definitely been intercepting a lot of tornadoes the last couple of years, and the last month has been active too with hurricanes. We've had Hurricane Francine, and then more recently Helene, which became a Katrina-like mega disaster in the southern Appalachian region there of western North Carolina and eastern Tennessee.
So when you hear of something coming and you do your homework, and so were you in Western Tennessee? Where did you go for?
Yeah, I chased Helene actually down in the Florida Big Bend region. So usually when those hurricanes come in, I try to get right on the coast and try to get the most powerful part of the hurricane. Basically, the right eye wall when it's coming ashore has the strongest winds because they're whipping right off the frictionless ocean. And also, you also get a tsunami-like wall of water that comes in that right eye wall. So it's a little bit dangerous when you get right on the beach to try to capture the most extreme winds because you'll also have that tsunami like wall of water. That's the storm surge that can be 15 or 20 feet high with waves on top of it. So I was down there in the Florida Big Bend region, picked wrong. I picked the wrong stilt home. So I ended up riding it out a couple miles inland there in Perry, Florida. But then the worst of it happened when that hurricane slammed into the mountains there, the southern Appalachians. Basically it's a mega disaster down there in the southern Appalachian Mountains when a hurricane slams into them because the topography will squeeze out the moisture and they get like 20, 30 inches of rain in the higher terrain. All that flows downhill, traps people in their homes. You get landslides and debris flows. And so I wish that I had targeted Western North Carolina instead of the Florida Big Bend region for the landfall because it was honestly even more dangerous up there, I think.
I mean, first of all, hope everybody. I mean, you have to say it. Like, I hope everybody is as safe as they can be and on a road to recovery. Second, your normal is not normal, right?
Yeah, I think it sometimes can be hard for any individual to realize that they're abnormal, but I definitely do see around me that like my peers are having families, and raising kids and they have a set schedule usually every day and they don't take on a lot of risk, at least, to themselves. I think probably financially they'll take on some risk, but I definitely know that my life trajectory is a lot different. But sometimes when you're out there on the road nonstop, chasing storms and you're driving all the time and just living storm to storm, it can be difficult to kind of examine, how you are different than the rest. And also, I'm in the storm chasing community too, so I have a lot of like-minded people that I hang out with, and a lot of times I see my friends on the side of a road next to a tornado or in a hurricane damage path or something like that, and we'll have a quick interaction. And so, definitely, my interactions with friends are a little different, I think. But yeah, I definitely know that hitting the gas pedal, hauling ass toward a tornado instead of hitting the brake or running away from it is definitely not normal behavior, but it just feels so natural to me just to pound the gas and drive at the tornado because I've kind of wired my brain into intercept mode too with our armored vehicles, the Dominators, and intercepting tornadoes for science and shooting rockets into the tornadoes so that we can measure the dynamics inside. I think that you kind of have to have that mindset around a tornado to accomplish those goals. And also, I'm not too scared of tornadoes either. I definitely understand them, which way they're moving, and I feel in total control out there storm chasing until sometimes at the last second, when a hay bale comes flying by or when we're right about to intercept a tornado, I do get a little bit of panic, but by that time, it's usually too late to drive away from it, and you just kind of hunker down and get through the tornado. And next thing you know, it's past.
I'm curious to learn as the years have gone by. Like, I'm sure the first time you zipped in the Dominator into the middle of the eye of a storm, was there more fear in that? And as you've learned more, you've learned to sort of not subside it, but live with it.
No, I honestly have never really had much fear for tornadoes and storm chasing. I've only all I can really remember is just being happy to be there. Every time I'm seeing a tornado, I'm so grateful to be there and to witness that moment of extreme nature right in front of me that I never really remember being afraid of it, to be honest. So I am afraid of little things, that don't matter sometimes a little bit here and there, like even conversations with other humans or doing paperwork or doing my taxes. Like I definitely have a little bit of fear and anticipation, but human interaction certainly. But around a tornado, I'm totally comfortable around tornado.
Your like tribe when you go out there. Do you have your locked tribe now? Like your squad?
Yeah, we've got a squad locked in right now, definitely. And a lot of times people don't like to storm chase them because I do get real close and it does kind of push their fear levels a little bit. So I have a unique team right now of people that love to be up close and if not inside of tornadoes. And for example, this year we were right in the path of a big wedge tornado, and we're in the Dominator 3, and the hydraulics failed at the last second, so I couldn't drop the vehicle down or deploy the spike. So we had to bury the car in a ditch. And I thought maybe a worst case scenario would happen where the tornado would occlude right on top of us and just kind of drill into the ground right there. But thankfully it didn't. But yeah, none of us were really afraid. At the last second, I just looked at the rest of the team and said, good luck. And then they may have gotten a little bit worried, but yeah, I think I've got a couple of crazy guys in the car right now that don't seem to feel that either. But as long as I keep the vehicle pointed into the wind, like we intercepted a couple tornadoes by rental car this year, and a tree came in through the windshield and shattered everybody with like a little fine mist of glass. And still, they just bounced right back and kept storm chasing. So it's hard to find a tribe or a group that of like-minded individuals that are happy driving toward a tornado like that. But it is important to know that the tornado isn't just a pipe of death. It's you could probably drive around in an EF1 or an EF2 tornado if you can dodge the debris and keep the vehicle pointed into the wind.
You've always been, from what I remember, fascinated by weather. Like, I think I remember you telling me a story when you were a kid that you'd go snag your camera. Maybe, and it's also maybe because you grew up Panhandle, right? Is that where you grew up?
I actually grew up in Michigan, but I spent so much time in the Texas Panhandle out there. I'm probably basically from there. Yeah, I'm from Michigan, and then I moved down here when I was 18 to study meteorology at the University of Oklahoma. I live in Oklahoma now, and yeah, I spent most of my time down in Tornado Alley down here in Oklahoma.
Well, I think you said like when you were a kid, like you'd go grab the camera. Am I making this up? And like you'd a
No,
storm was
oh
coming.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, I was obsessed with weather from as long as I can remember. And originally, I was scared of thunder and lightning when I was like 4 or 5 years old. But for the most part, it was just nothing but passion and obsession with weather storms and the sciences too. So I collected insects when I was younger. I had a pet tarantula. Yeah, big into the life sciences. I did the tree identification event and science Olympiad. Didn't go through puberty till about age 25, I think. So I was a science nerd, big time. Still am a science nerd. But weather was always my deep passion. And I realized that once I got my driver's license, I didn't have to wait for weather to come to me anymore, but I could drive after it.
Can you remember like an early scenario where the rush was real and you were going to go chase a storm and maybe you didn't have the right equipment, but you duct taped it together and there was like it was a little too close for comfort, or you like is there a story that pops for you?
Yeah. When I was younger, I had the family video camera, and a hailstorm came into Michigan, and I ran outside and started videotaping the hail, and I was getting pelted by quarters out there in the yard. But I just remember pure happiness at the hail hitting me in the face, and yeah, I've just always been in awe at extreme nature and never really saw it for the danger that it can pose, but have always kind of seen extreme nature for the beauty that it is, and want to better understand it too. And tornadoes are definitely a beautiful thing when you see them in person, but it's the damage that they leave behind that is the dark side of tornadoes. So,
What do you think people misunderstand the most about storms or storm chasers like yourself?
well, I think a lot of people think that we're adrenaline junkies, but really we're more kind of along the science nerd side of things in terms of chasing tornadoes. And I just happen to enjoy getting really close to tornadoes, and it has an adrenaline response, of course. Yeah, I love being up close to them. When you're close to tornadoes, you can see them in 3 dimensions as well. So you can see the whole process happening with your eyes, which are the best sensors that we have. But storm chasers are really motivated to help people too and warn people in the path of these storms. And even as I'm doing this right now, my storm chaser friends, private disaster response groups, they're all out there in Western North Carolina rendering aid and cutting people out that are trapped in their homes, trapped by downed trees, and just helping out in that mega flood zone of Western North Carolina. I'm actually about to head out there later on today to help out. And I've been using my platform to try to bring groups together and allocate funds to people that are on the ground helping people. So one misunderstanding with storm chasers is that we do a lot to help, and a lot more than just increasing awareness for storms and warning people in the path of these storms, but also in disaster response after the storms are gone.
Sometimes when people go on podcasts, they wait to the end on this, but I want to hit it now. Like, how can we help? Like, where do you want to send us? I think the more I've learned about you, it's not about the adrenaline. It's about in service of or understanding Mother Nature. So where can we go to help, and also where can we go to learn more about you and your story?
Yeah, and it's also about the science mission too, like trying to collect data inside of tornadoes and where other people can't safely get. And that's why we're launching rockets into tornadoes like the 4th of July with miniaturized sensors in the nose cone. And then those are transported around inside of the tornado, and they measure high resolution GPS data, pressure data, temperature, and moisture. And the goal is to try to get a 3 dimensional understanding of the tornado. So maybe eventually, like in the movie Twisters, dissipating the tornado should probably be the ultimate end game.
So where should I go to learn more or donate or send me somewhere, Reed?
Yeah, to help us out, you can definitely follow us on social media. You can follow me, Reed Timmer, on YouTube, and we have all of our crazy tornado intercepts on there. Facebook is Reed Timmer Extreme Meteorologist. We're Team Dominator, so we're going to launch those social media sites as well. And if anybody's interested in helping out in the recovery effort after Hurricane Helene, there's a lot of good organizations that we work with. Aerial Recovery Group is one, Mercury One Charity, the United Cajun Navy are some good ones that we work with. And we're doing Team Dominator Storm Recovery, which is a nonprofit that we're starting up to help out people. But right now, we're just sending as many funds to those organizations that have people on the ground to help out after Hurricane Helene.
I mean, you've kind of already hit this a little bit, but I imagine the tech, like the technology from when you started your love of weather was started with probably like a little disposable camera to you're shooting rockets into tornado or like hurricanes or tornadoes. How has tech really changed the storm chasing game today?
Well, it's changed dramatically, and I've definitely felt the exponential technology curve from when I started in the 90s until now. And when we first started, we had no mobile internet. We didn't have cell phones even. You just had paper maps, and we had to stop at libraries on the side of the road to access data and to access radar imagery so we could find out where the storms are to see forecast models. Now we have mobile internet. Basically, anywhere you're going, you have high speed internet. You can submit reports, you can upload video, you can edit video. You don't need a satellite truck to send content anymore. And you can access models and radar data when you're on the road. And research technology has come a long way as well. We saw the development of mobile radars out there that are scanning the tornadoes from close range. We're using miniaturized sensors that we launch into the tornadoes, and drone technology is huge. So we used to have a 15-foot wingspan aircraft that we would drop parachute probes out of, and now anybody can buy a drone off the shelf and that shoots 4K video and do photogrammetry research with it. And I think that we've come a long way. And now we have artificial intelligence that's taking off. So that's kind of an interesting thing with some forecast products and some AI enhanced forecast models that have been doing a pretty good job, some machine learning based products. So it's crazy just to see the absolutely exponential curve of technology throughout my over 25-year career now.
So, Reed, imagine I'm part of Team Dominator, and actually, you said I could come on a ride with you or a chase with you. What do you call it?
Yeah,
Ride or chase?
you're already on Team Dominator, and once you're on, you can't leave either. It's permanent. So
I can't breathe. I can't breathe, Reed. I can't breathe right now. No. All right. So let's say I actually get my tail out there with you, and you think about your team. Like, take us behind the curtain on process. Like, when you think about from identifying a storm to the communication you have with your team to like your version of proper protocols of where to park the Dominator, how technology gets unlocked. Do you have a process that you're trying to standardize or follow every storm out, and the team's aware of that?
We definitely have a pattern of behavior that happens during storms, but one thing with storm chasing is every setup and every tornado and every storm system are very different. So it's hard to kind of have a process every time, but we do have a natural process that happens where we're looking at forecast models, we're trying to pick our target area, and then we'll drive to the target area, looking at forecast models all the way up there. And then the day of the chase, the morning of course, always look at the latest forecast models. You try to stay in touch with your gut, your experience, try to see storm systems that look similar to the one that you're currently chasing. You have little morning meetings as well. But usually the storms develop during the afternoon time, a lot of times during late afternoon. So we have to be in perfect position by the time that they fire, because I like to watch them develop and be underneath them relatively early. And once the storms develop, you're using radar, but most importantly, using your eyes too to try to pick which storm has the greatest tornado potential. You can tell if they have a crisp vertical updraft, if they have a big updraft base, do they have a wall cloud hanging down below the base about to produce a tornado. And so you're just analyzing the supercell, forming a relationship with it, and trying to pick which one has the greatest likelihood of producing tornadoes. And once you're on it, then you analyze the storm for potential cues that it's about to go tornadic. You look at the big mesocyclone base, and does it have a clear slot cutting into it? Is that tightening up the spin? And you look for certain precursors that will happen that lead up to tornado genesis. And then you're trying to line it up and look for roads to intercept. So when we storm chase, we don't just take photographs of it, but we're trying to intercept it. So once the tornado touches down, a lot of times that's when our journey begins. And so we're hitting the gas pedal when other people are hitting the brake, trying to navigate to get in the path of the tornado. And you also need it to not dissipate before it reaches the road that you're trying to intercept on, or bops the intercept. And you're streaming live video at the same time. A lot of times I'll be kind of a spaz when I'm intercepting, just because I get a little vocal, I think, when adrenaline hits. And so I'm yelling at the top of my lungs in the car, and it's embarrassing to watch videos afterward. But a lot of times they have a science mission. We're all yelling at each other. Sometimes windows will be down, debris will be coming through the car when we get close to it. When I get in the path of the tornado, then we drop the vehicle flush to the ground. We lift the polycarbonate windows, and then we just settle in for intercept. And like last year in the Nebraska Sandhills, when the tornado came, we initially had wind from the back, and we only have two spikes in the front of the Dominator that anchor us to the ground. So when we get a wind from the back, it causes the whole back end to kind of bounce up and down. And we had wind from the back, and then we're in the middle of it. There was kind of a calm eye, and that was when the pressure reached its minimum. And we all, had ears popping. Just you could feel the pressure fall. My face was as red as a strawberry. We had the other side of the tornado. The wind started coming from the front, and this big juniper tree hit the car. I saw a large piece of debris, what looked like a couch, that flew by the Dominator. And we had our side mirrors and our anemometer on the roof ripped off, and we measured a 60 millibar pressure change in less than a second, in 3/4 of a second. So that's what led to those concussion-like symptoms out there.
Do you have like a tornado bingo card that you like? Oh, there goes a cow, or there goes a couch. Circle that. Like as this shit, it's like debris is flying through. Or do you keep track of everything you've seen fly by you?
I mean, I just keep track naturally in my head. We should have a bingo card when we're out there, but I actually have seen cows fly through the air too. Up in Wyoming in
Wow.
2018, just northwest of Cheyenne, I saw a tornado by rental car, and I had to drive after the tornado on a donut tire. I had a flat tire earlier in that day, and then I got up to the tornado, blew all my windows out by softball size hail, and the tornado was retrograding back at me. And I saw these large pieces of debris that had like four legs sticking out of it, kind of rotating around. And then I looked closer on the video, and it was a cow. And there were a couple of them that were going around the tornado. The pressure gradient must have been relaxing because the cows were like kind of going out from the tornado instead of being held in nice and tight. But a farmer up there reported missing a bunch of cattle from that tornado. So definitely, if they get fenced in and stuff, the cow I think is wired instinctively to point its ass toward the wind, toward the tornado, the approaching tornado. But they can run out of space when they're fenced in like that, won't be able to get away from it, and it can be devastating for the cattle.
I've learned more today on this show than I ever thought I would about cows. That is, I did not know that. Reed, when you think about global warming or this concept of, I mean, you're seeing the weather front and center. Like, is the weather changing? Do you notice? Like, and what is this? What is the schedule? What does your season look like?
Well, it is definitely important to draw a line between weather and climate. So, like
Yeah.
what you see with your eyes on the day to day level is weather. And it's a very difficult process to relate day to day weather, severity, intensity, and everything to real long term climate. And I have a PhD in meteorology. And for my graduate research, I focused on climate research, but on short term climate. So, interannual, subseasonal through the interannual, even up to decadal climate variability using Pacific Ocean sea surface temperature patterns to try to predict severe weather downstream. But anything longer than that is not my expertise and not an interest in. I'm real interested in the small scale meteorology like tornadoes, supercell storms, and mildly interested in the ability to seasonally forecast how active tornadoes and hurricanes might be, and using Pacific Ocean sea surface temperatures to do that. And I do think that we are in the middle of a very active 3 to 5 year period for tornadoes. And usually those periods of tornadoes will coincide with inactive hurricane seasons. And that's what's happening right now in the
Mm.
Atlantic. Even though it was forecast to be a supercharged hurricane season on steroids, we've only just had the H storm. So it's been a really inactive season overall in terms of the number of storms. And that's because the climate systems that these storms are a part of are very complicated, and there's a lot more to hurricane strength and severity than just the sea surface temperatures. And global warming is a three-dimensional process. And so what happens if the upper atmosphere is warming at a disproportionate rate to the surface? Then you're starting to weaken your convective instability basin wide. And I think that could be what happened this year with the hurricane season, is you had a really warm troposphere left over from a supercharged El Nino that happened in the tropical Pacific. But at the same time, you're having active tornado seasons, which thrive off of the temperature gradients in the mid latitudes. And you would think that given climate change, you would be weakening the temperature gradients in the mid latitudes, with melting the ice caps and having less of a temperature change from the equatorial regions to the poles. So, in my opinion, climate change should have a dampening effect on most storms, except flooding, with a warmer atmosphere, obviously being able to support more rainfall. But I think with tornadoes, it's a lot more complicated. And it's a lot more complicated than anyone realizes, kind of relating weather, day to day weather with climate change. A lot of people just lump all storms into this one big category of storms, the dangerous storm that comes in the night, and say, oh, everything's getting so bad. There's going to be hypercanes. But if you do have sea surface temperatures that are 5 degrees warmer than they were, and you had a category 5 before, it doesn't seem like the intensity of the hurricanes are scaling up at least with related to the sea surface temperatures, which tells me that likely, the upper atmosphere could be warming at an even faster rate than the sea surface temperatures. But I choose to stay out of the long term stuff for obvious reasons. So
Yeah.
I think it's a bit more of a geographical science too than like pure like geophysical geosciences and life sciences. So I'm interested in the real small stuff where there's a right and wrong answer, and objectively right or wrong answer on things. Like there's a low pressure inside of a tornado. How low is that pressure? How strong are the winds? When you start to branch into the social sciences, that's when I stop paying attention in school.
I'm just curious if you feel, because I'm sure you're, the science side of you is plotting tornado season, right? Like, and has since you started these ventures, this looking at tornadoes, do you feel that tornado season's always this month to that month, or have you seen it go wider or smaller?
So I've been chasing for about 25 years, which is a very short time on the planet, especially compared to how old the planet is, 4 billion years old over that. So I've been on this planet for such a short time that really all I think that I've been able to resolve in my head looking out the window is probably interannual and maybe one shift in decadal variability. So it's been pretty uniform. But when I started, nobody storm chased in Dixie Alley because there were so many trees and forest land. I would say it's probably about the same with tornadoes from the start, from May 3rd, 99 until now. One anomalous year though was 2011, but that was with over 700 tornadoes during the month of April. And it included the super outbreak that featured a warm North Pacific oscillation in the North Pacific, but colder than normal sea surface temperatures in the tropical Pacific. And one thing I'm noticing heading into 2025 are so many similarities between the Pacific Ocean sea surface temperature patterns with between now and 2011. And so I wouldn't be surprised if 2025 is another active year for tornadoes, but I think we'll probably have a more progressive upper level pattern, and I think that we'll see Dixie Alley come alive next year. So as human beings, I think what we mostly see when we're looking out the window is weather, day-to-day variability. But if we're really good at keeping track of things and we have a really good memory, we might be able to resolve interannual variability like El Nino, La Nina cycles, North Pacific oscillation, PDO. Maybe we could definitely see kind of the melting of glaciers, which still could be part of decadal variability as well. But when you're on a pattern that varies every 10 years and you can only remember probably 3 shifts in decadal variability, and that happens a lot in the Pacific Ocean is really dominated by decadal variability on the order of tens of years.
Reed, I feel like I'm on the road all the time. I mean, you're literally on the road, I imagine. And what is your travel schedule like? Are you how often are you out and about going where you need to go? How many days a year you think?
I probably travel like 200 to 250 days a year now, so quite a lot of travel. I drive more than a long haul trucker for sure. So yeah, a lot of driving. A lot of it's in rental cars too. We must have damaged like 12 to 15 rental cars this year, sadly. So I always get the insurance. But last year I had a car rental company, one of the big ones, come after me for 40 grand in damages,
Wow.
which was punted to my insurance company. But you even if you get the loss damage waiver, they have fine print in there where they can get out of it. So if you do rent a car, definitely just realize that loss damage waiver doesn't hold water.
Well, at some point, they're like, "No, Mister Timmer, we're not gonna let you rent this car." Have you felt that yet?
Yeah, with 3 companies. Yeah.
It's still out there. And when you're traveling, are you with your team? Like, is a team Dominator? How many on the team? Give me a little bit of color on the core team, and then
Mhm.
what is each person's role as you're chasing away?
Brian O'Toole, he was my producer on Storm Chasers and has been a showrunner on television for a long time. And he's come to work with Team Dominator to boost our production quality. And we're doing a live stream, kind of like live PD, but with storm chasing. And he'll moderate the stream and toss to the different storm chasers that are in the field, provide warning information, radar breakdowns, and everything like that. In the vehicle, we've got Edgar O'Neill. He's kind of the Swiss Army knife out there. storm chaser, but also videographer. He'll shoot our we're doing a series called Twisters IRL as well from this year.
How many seats in the Dominator, and where is he sitting?
He sits in the passenger seat usually. Sometimes Jordan H. Hall will sit in the passenger seat as well. Sometimes Sierra, his girlfriend, will sit right behind me. And a lot of times we have a production person and usually a news media person with us as well. That'll be in the other two seats. But the back seat in the Dominator, the fifth one, that's where Captain Vandover, the drone pilot, will often sit, and he'll launch the high speed racing drones around the tornado. That's also the seat where you launch the rockets too. So you hit a big red button and then shoot rockets into the tornado. So, but there, Team Dominator's been around for a long time, and we've had a lot of different teams, a lot of different versions of the team over the years. And still, even some of the old versions of Team Dominator will come back out of retirement for a few chases. And once you're a part of Team Dominator, you're always a part of Team Dominator. So,
Is there a 6th seat for me in there somewhere?
oh yeah, we always got a seat for you. Definitely. If you want to come out, we'll show you the inside of a tornado.
This is where my wife, who will probably listen to this episode, will be like, "You are not going to see Reed Timmer." I want to go. Look, how many have you done of these at this point? How many have you seen?
I've seen close to 1,000 tornadoes. So I'm not sure about the exact number. I have to go back, but it's getting close to 1,000 and maybe 60 or 70 hurricanes, a lot of flash floods. And it's all I've been doing too for like 25 years.
I mean, if you take a step back for 1 second and you really assess that, like 1,000 tornadoes, give me the top 3 learnings for you. Like when you think about, I know that's almost an unfair question, but like share, because most of us are afraid of things we don't understand, like a tornado. What are your learnings or takeaways about what you've seen over time?
Tornadoes at night can be difficult to chase, but you definitely have to use all your senses when you're chasing at night. The wind direction, little subtle wind shifts. Like if there's a northerly wind, you're probably north of the tornado. If it shifts a little bit to a westerly direction, you're getting a little bit behind it. And so you kind of have to use wind direction to storm chase at night because you can only see the tornado when the lightning flashes or with a power flash or something. Sometimes you can hear it before you can see it, and you'll roll your windows down and you can hear that low roar, like a distinctive low roar that tornadoes have. You can definitely hear that. You have to use all your senses at night. But one thing I've learned chasing tornadoes is it's remarkable that so many people survive these damage paths. Like you'll see a tornado come into a populated area and it just shreds all the buildings, just a crazy path. And you look at it and think, I cannot think how anybody could have survived this, but somehow people do. I think that maybe they go limp when the tornado hits, and sometimes they're in a bathtub and it gets thrown into a tree. But more times than not, people a lot of times will survive the unsurvivable with tornadoes. So that's one thing that I learned, but still, obviously, they're sufficiently dangerous that everybody should take shelter because they could cause a lot of injury, total destruction, especially an EF4 or EF5 type tornado. Yeah, but they're beautiful and terrible at the same time. Such a double-edged sword because tornadoes are the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, but the damage that they leave behind is some of the worst things that I've ever seen. The loss of life and loss of property and injuries are just terrible. And so there's such a dichotomy. It even almost makes them more fascinating that they're so beautiful and so terrible at the same time. I've definitely learned how to get close to tornadoes and identify the tornado genesis process and really fully understand it in 3 dimensions because I've seen it so many times from directly underneath. So,
Are you doing any time outside the US, or you stay like, and do tornadoes in, halfway around the world, do they operate the same as tornadoes here?
yeah, I have chased tornadoes down in Argentina, down in the Pampas in the southern hemisphere. And tornadoes down there, for the most part, spin the other direction. They spin clockwise instead of counterclockwise. And they're on the north side of the supercell instead of the south side, usually, because a northerly wind is a warm wind down there. That warm wind funnels off the Amazon basin instead of a southerly wind off the Gulf of Mexico. And they have amazing gas station food down there, too. They have these gas station bathrooms where you just stand there and just pull a chain and flush it down so you don't even have to sit.
The luxuries, the joys of other countries.
And then they got right next to that, they have a bidet. So you could pull the chain, go to the bathroom, and then sit down on the bidet. That was a great experience. I remember when I first saw a bidet, I was like, what in the hell is this thing? And then I flipped the crank and it shot me right in the face. Little water shot out. So that was down in Argentina. And I've also chased hurricanes down in Mexico, and I've been meaning to head out to Southeast Asia to chase typhoons, but recently there have been so many crazy storms here in the US that I'm just chasing nonstop here in the US.
Well, in the spirit of that comment, and permission granted to say, Ryan, I'm like 1 foot in front of the other type of guy, or if you, as you think about the next decade of your life, is there something you are like consciously chasing down?
Yeah, there definitely is. I'm trying to get a full scale science mission going to where a tornado happens and we're intercepting it at the base of the Dominators. We're shooting rockets in it and we're having multiple sensors fly around inside. We'd have other people that are sampling the environment around it. And so my goal is a full self funded, full research project of tornadoes coming up with the Dominators and all the technology that we've invented using all the experience that we've gained. And that's definitely what I've been chasing after all these years. But in storm chasing, there's not a lot of money in it, so I'm kind of like a lifelong break even guy at this point. So it's a constant battle to try to get a science budget so that we can really let it rip with sensors, multiple dominators, mobile radars, and everything like that. And then we'll just continue to repeat it until maybe eventually we develop a method to try to dissipate tornadoes.
Have is that why you said self-funded because you just haven't seen a path to someone like if there's a grant, or have you thought of like a Kickstarter? Like because I
Yeah, and we did a Kickstarter some years ago to fund a series called Tornado Chasers that we have on social media, and so we actually are going to roll out a Kickstarter for next year to fund our science mission. So we're going to try to crowdsource that. It seems like science missions are a hard thing to fund. Definitely, other things like disaster response and things like that are easier to fund, but sometimes tornado science missions can be challenging to fund. But everything that we've done up until now is self-funded out of our own pocket. So we make revenue through viral videos and by getting crazy videos up close to tornadoes and save it for as long as we can. And then we try to do big science and just reinvest in ourselves and get more storm chasing equipment. And we're going to probably build a Dominator 5 coming up here soon that we know we'll be able to survive an EF4, EF5 tornado. And that would take a little bit of the stress out of it because it's definitely not a guarantee with the Dominator 3.
3 questions, and then we can get you back out on the road here. One, one in your mind, has there ever been a storm at any moment of your life where fear either stopped you from chasing a storm or almost stopped you, but you overcame it?
Yeah, maybe this year when I was about to intercept an EF3 tornado in Council Bluffs, Iowa during the April 26th outbreak. And we had the Nelk boys with us, who are kind of a big podcast organization. We had Kyle, we had Bob Menery in there. Steiny was in the car, and we were about to intercept the tornado, and they were pleading with me not to do it. They're like, please no, in the car, and we're in perfect position. I could hear it roar, and it was coming right at us. Big explosions in the power lines, and I really needed to keep going about another 50 yards to intercept it, but all the everybody yelling in the vehicle to not do it, and the tornado was moving fast. I ended up not hitting the gas pedal in that moment, and I still regret it to this day, not getting right in the path of that tornado. But yeah, it could have been a little bit of fear that crept in. I think everybody has a little bit of both. You have a voice in your head that says, "What the hell are you doing?" And then you have your voice of reason that says, "Hit the gas pedal." So you just kind of have to block that little person out sometimes.
I love that that's your voice of reason is like, my voice of reason is hit the pedal. And other people's voice of reason is like, what are you doing? When you said the voices were in the car, I mean, you got your whole team, your Dominator. So was there anybody else on Team Dom? I mean, everyone, once you're in the car, you're on the team. But your core team, do you remember hearing any of them saying, Reed, this isn't the one? Or did you hear them go,
No, they don't
no?
really tell me. Yeah, they don't tell me too much, and it's a newer team too. So they just started intercepting tornadoes the last couple years. So I have to just kind of figure it out on my own too when I'm in the
Yeah.
driver's sometimes, because I've seen a lot of those tornadoes and I know which ones we can handle and which ones we can't. So I just somehow have to be in touch with that experience in the moment directly and then intercept it. So sometimes if you have a lot of things going on in the car, sometimes it can be kind of hard to concentrate.
Well, dude, what a ride! Literally, what a ride! It's been fun to like just learn about you and your story. And it's funny that you said, oh, it's funny, but it's interesting that you said you still regret not hitting the gas. And we always talk about courage as regret insurance.
Yeah.
This that's how we see it. We see courage as regret insurance. I'm like, what are you gonna regret not doing? And I'm curious, this is from your perspective, how do you define courage? And how does it show up? Like we have a definition of courage. I don't want to stain you with our definition, but how does courage in your mind show up in the work that you do?
Well, I think other people probably think that me intercepting tornadoes is courageous, but I think it would be if I was afraid of that and I was overcoming that fear in those moments. So I think that is possibly just a different comfort level that I have with tornadoes too. But I also think just doing what other people's aren't willing to do in the heat of the moment, and when it could potentially risk yourself too and come with self-sacrifice, whether it's loss of life or injury or loss of anything. Everybody, anytime they make a decision, it's a ratio of, you know, what can they gain versus what they're risking. Even though they don't know it, they're probably weighing those things out in their head. Especially if they're paying really close attention to safety and whatnot. I just happen to have a different proportion, a different level of expectations for safety. I think around tornadoes and totally comfortable hitting the gas, just charging into a tornado. So I don't necessarily even know if that's courage, or I'm not even sure what is courage. So I think it could be. I think, especially if it's for somebody else's gain with courage. So
You have this quote: "The greatest rewards come from taking the greatest risks," and you add it on, especially when it comes to understanding the forces of nature. Do you feel like we could live stream with you? Because I'd love the audience to come along with you at some point. Can we do a live podcast with you at some point?
yeah, of course.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
that would be.
yeah, yeah. It'd be easy to plug you right in and intercept a tornado. We certainly could do that.
I think we'd love to have a seat in the Dominator and hear what that's like and let theater of the mind do what it does. And yes, I need to go talk to my wife about coming to visit you. Maybe there's like a small tornado I can
Yeah.
come check. But I would love to come and experience it with you. And I mean the data is, I mean, if you've seen 1,000 of them, knock on wood, right? I mean, here we are. Reed, thanks man for giving us a little bit of your time today. Anything you want to What do you want to land with us? Any last thoughts? Last shares?
Never stop chasing.
Amen, man.
Free
Never
word.
stop chasing. All right, guys. Never stop chasing.
Yeah, here she is.
Oh my goodness. This dog has more courage than I do. How many tornadoes?
She's seen 200 tornadoes. She's been in a Category 5 hurricane, crazy hail, big floods. She's seen it all. More tornadoes than any other dog.
Have you submitted this for Guinness Book of World Records?
I'm not very good with paperwork, if you haven't gathered. So I just know that she's the record. So it doesn't matter. But
And her name is Gizmo?
Gizmo.
Clearly you were inspired by the movie Gremlins.
Yeah, she looks like a gremlin, doesn't she?
She does. We also have a Yorkie here named Mr. T.
Oh, you have a Yorkie?
We have a York. We live, we're in San Diego, so right by the border. So we had one dog that's a rescue. That's Honey, and she's from Mexico. And I'm always like, if she acts up, we're taking her back to Mexico. And then we have Mr. T. So we got Honey and T are our two dogs. But Gizmo has seen 200 more tornadoes than T at this point.
Yeah, she has, but she's now deaf and a little bit blind, so I think that maybe those pressure falls were a little too much. But I'm about to get her the cataract surgery, so
Awesome, man.
heard that does wonders. But yeah, this is my life partner. She's been around for everything. This is Gizmo.
What's up, Gizmo? I know I guess you might not be able to hear me. Maybe I should speak up. All right, Reed. Thanks so much for coming on the show, brother. Be good.
Thanks for having me.
Do you say shit like you know how you say break a leg, and do you say stay safe? What do you say? What do you say in the community? Chase like a
We
champion?
don't really have anything. Yeah, I guess when people say stay safe, I always say I'll try not to.
Yeah, okay. Stay safe. I'll try not to.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks,
Okay.
Reed. See you, buddy.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Courageous Podcast. If you enjoy the show, don't forget to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts so more people can find us. See you again next week.